Welcome back to All Things Creepy. I'm your host, Micah James, and this episode is the start of like a three-parter. So this episode and next episode are gonna cover at least 5 different horror movies that are based on true stories. And then part 3 are gonna be movies that people thought were real but are completely fictional. So for this episode, I chose 5 kind of like better known horror movies that you may or may not know are based in reality. And so like I'll kind of be touching on both the movie's plot and the true story. If any of these true stories sound interesting enough to you guys, I will go more into depth about the real stories behind these movies. This goes for both this week's episode and next week's. So with that being said, let's dive into the 5 movies that I chose for this week. So the first one might be the most well-known on this list as far as being based on a true story. And that is the movie Amityville Horror. So the real story behind this movie is still very hotly debated over, but let's focus on the movie's plot first. In 1975, a family moved into a house located at 112 Ocean Avenue in Long Island, New York. It was the site of a mass murder, and the family is then haunted by spirits of the past, and they see really weird things happen. In real life, though, the only thing people can seem to agree on and like actively confirm for sure is the DeFeo family murder. Robert DeFeo Jr., the oldest son, killed his family and ran into town for help. He was then found guilty. He did try to plead insanity. I think at one point they tried to do the devil made me do it defense at one point, I believe, but he did get sentenced, and I believe he got life in prison. Another family ended up moving to the house, the Lutz family, in 1975 and stayed for less than a month. The Lutzes were haunted by demon pigs, flies, gross smells, and ghosts, and a lot more. They couldn't handle it and left. The reason why the Lutz's story is highly contested is because there have been a few people that have come forward to say that their part in the story was exaggerated or flat out say that the family was lying. So most notably, there are 2 people that I found. The lawyer that the family worked with had said that the Lutzes just wanted to make money. Like the lawyer and the family were sitting around and having wine and decided like, hey, let's write this story. Another notable person was a priest who was mentioned. He said that the only contact he had with the Lutz family was over the phone. So he can't confirm nor deny anything really, since the only contact that he claims he had with the family is through the phone. And I don't want to say that the Lutz family was lying about, like, me personally don't want to say the Lutz family was lying when they said they had experiences there, because when a location is the site of something like very tragic, I personally would be surprised if there was at least no like haunting, like some sort of like residual haunting there, right? That's the part that would surprise me, if there was nothing like that. There's some sort of energy that was left over. But because there have been people who have come forward to say like, yeah, my part was exaggerated, or they were lying, or, you know, like whatever, I just personally find it hard to believe that they were haunted to that extent. And I've also heard that other families who have stayed at the house said that they did not have any similar experiences. And if they did have an experience, they heard like footsteps, things were knocked over. So still things that are like creepy, but nothing to suggest that there were random flies in the basement or that there was like slime coming down from the walls or anything like that. And I feel like if they were telling like the complete truth, another family would have some sort of similar experience, but they did not. Let's move on to the next movie I chose, and that is the 1980 hit Poltergeist. A family ends up moving into a new house, also in Long Island, and everything seems to be fine at first, but then they start experiencing some weird things going on in the house. Like chairs will be on the table when no one moved them, bottle caps would be popping off of their bottles, and then Carol Ann, the youngest member of the family, warns that they're here. Before long, she is sucked into the TV and is in another dimension, essentially. They end up saving Carol Ann from this other dimension. They also find out that the house was built on a burial ground, and the house is basically sucked into another dimension, presumably the same dimension that Carol Ann was sucked into. Now, this movie in and of itself has a lot of lore behind it, and I'm pretty sure I covered on a different episode, but much like a lot of the movies that I'm going to be covering this week, next week, and the week after, it has so much lore to it that I could do like its own episode. But yeah, let's talk about the real story. The movie was inspired by a 1958 poltergeist case that haunted a family by the name of Herman. James Herman, the patriarch of the family, got a call from his wife Lucille when he was at work. She said that the kids, Jimmy and Lucy, heard popping noises around the house. The family didn't want to investigate until James got home. They found various uncapped bottles around the house, including the bottle of their holy water. The next one kind of like surprised me the most, and that is the movie Scream. In case you haven't seen this iconic slashic, it's about a girl named Sydney who is stalked by someone in a ghost face mask and a black robe. This killer takes the lives of various other high school students as well as the school's principal. It is later revealed that there are two different killers, her boyfriend and a mutual friend of theirs. Now, I know I've mentioned this in a previous episode, but I am going to be doing a episode on the entire Scream series that is released already. I might even wait until Scream 7 is released just so I can do all 7 of them. But as far as the inspiration for the first movie, of course it took a lot of creative freedom with the story, but it did take inspiration from the real-life serial killer, the Gainesville Ripper, which was really later revealed to be Daniel Rolling. He was caught after killing 5 college students in Florida over a 4-day period. Rolling did admit to more murders when he was questioned. Hence, serial killer, not just a mass murderer. Next is another one that kind of surprised me as well as far as being based on a true story. And that is the story of Jennifer's body. Jennifer becomes possessed by a demon after a satanic sacrifice and begins to kill only her male classmates so she can feed on their flesh, just so the demon can survive, in the quote-unquote real world. Her best friend Anita works to try to find a way to help Jennifer stop her killing spree. This movie was inspired by the tragic case of Elise Poller. Elise was murdered by a group of her male classmates. These guys believed that the devil would give them powers if they gave him this sacrifice of human blood. Next is The Exorcist. Now, this is another one where the true story is very highly debated, and not a lot of people believe that the story that The Exorcist is based on is true. The movie itself is about a young girl who plays with a Ouija board. Soon after, she is possessed by a demon, and she ends up getting exorcised. And the movie also has like a bunch of sequels that are not that good. But again, let's just go focus on the true story. So as far as this quote-unquote true story goes, a young boy that was given the pseudonym Roland Doe had also been playing with a Ouija board. He was supposedly in contact with a demon named Pazuzu. Now, this is the only time I'm going to mention that demon's name, because it is said that the more you say his name, the more likely he is to show himself. And while I'm not particularly superstitious or even religious or anything like that, I would rather play it safe, so that just in case it is real. So the author who wrote the book The Exorcist said that he took inspiration for his book from the priest who kept a very well documented diary about Roland's story. The author, William Blatty, I believe was the author, said that the boy was possessed by this demon. The exorcism was supposedly successful, and Roland was able to live a pretty normal life afterwards. He became an engineer for NASA and died in 2020 at the ripe old age of 85. The last supposed witness of this exorcism was a Jesuit priest named Father Walter H. Halloran. Halloran kept a very detailed diary of the events. However, when asked to confirm that Roland Doe was possessed, the priest was quoted as saying, "No, I can't go on record. I never made an absolute statement about the things because I didn't feel I was qualified." And this quote alone has been like a leading argument about whether or not this is like an actually true exorcism. Now, I am also not qualified to say whether exorcisms are real or not, but a lot of religions, spiritualities and all that believe in exorcisms do recommend that people go, to psychiatrists, doctors and all of that to make sure that it's not something mental or physical that's causing someone to act the way they are. So because of that, it's hard to prove a lot of exorcism stories in general, not just the story with Roland Doe. But exorcisms in general is another topic that I can cover on another episode because it is actually a very interesting topic to me. So, but it's because the last living witness of Roland Doe's exorcism has never went on record to confirm nor deny. People have debated whether this person was actually possessed or not, and I can really see both sides of the argument personally. Okay, so I know this was a shorter episode. It's just been very busy with the holidays this week, but next week I plan on going into more movies. So that's part of the reason why I said at least 5 episodes for this week and next week. So next week I plan to cover at least 10 movies that are based on true stories because like I said, there are a lot of horror movies that claim to be based on true stories. And then, like I said, the following week will be movies that people thought were real. So yeah, if there are any movies that I didn't cover this week that you want me to cover next week, let me know and I'll look into it. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week, like I said, with more horror movies. And I hope you guys stay safe out there. Please stay safe. And I hope you guys enjoy your New Year's if you go out and celebrate. But like I said, please be safe and I'll see you guys next weekend.